Hold on. And 3, 2, 1.
It's Danny and Fred, little CripTrip podcast.
This podcast contains strong language and adult themes that may not be suitable for all audiences. Danny and I are in Edmonton, chatting over Zoom with our guest, Lucas Waterfill, who's in Indianapolis, Indiana.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of CripTrip, the podcast. We are joined here today by Lucas Waterfill, Indianapolis native and comedian.
Legendary comedian.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Hi, how are you guys?
We're doing pretty good. We just got back not too long ago, so we're shaking off some of the post-trip blues, getting back into the swing of things. We don't hate each other anymore. Our annulment is getting reviewed in court, so we're doing good.
We got married?
Yeah, and then divorced.
Wow.
And then now we're reconsidering the divorce. That was the bit.
Was I drunk when that happened? I don't remember getting married, but maybe.
Did you guys consummate it?
Yeah, of course.
We're saving it for season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, the consummation. I have ideas for season 2.
Ooh.
I think you and me and other electric wheelchair users should drive across America.
Just like one massive Mad Max CripTrip convoy.
Yeah.
I don't hate it.
Get so we carry chargers with we carry batteries with us, and that would take so long now.
I mean, that's essentially what we did.
You say electric wheelchairs. Is that as opposed to are there gas powered wheelchairs? I don't even know.
I mean, there's gotta be. There's gotta be.
Yeah, some crippled redneck somewhere.
This is a lawnmower.
They invented disabled shooting. I remember looking into that.
I'm not going to use some electric liberal wheelchair.
I'm rolling coal in the middle of my house.
Solar powered grips are.
Your whole house just smells like diesel.
I grew up in Alberta. That's called going outside.
But yeah, we should take paths. I'm sure there's a path across some part of America or Canada.
Do you mean in an
RV
or just driving the power chairs down the road?
No, just driving the power chairs.
That's wild.
I want faster chairs. Then we're definitely going gas powered. If that's
do I have to run behind you the whole time?
Yeah, you got to Terry Fox it, but you're not Terry Fox, but you'd have heart problems. So.
I'd die, but I'd get in shape while doing it.
You're gonna need to work on your cardio. Try not to have an aneurysm on the way.
That would be a great episode 4, though.
We would be your snow, your huskies.
Yeah, I've got the barrel thing around my neck.
Yeah.
That would be a bad look for me. That'd be a bad look.
Is it kink? Is it problematic? No one really knows.
You guys have to wear leather.
Everybody's like, I think I'm offended, but I don't know why.
Also
really
partially aroused.
On.
I don't. But thank you for, taking the time to chat with us about comedy and specifically, the disabled community within the comedy scene. I'm more curious now than I've ever been after, having done a mildly successful set.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
How does it feel, being away from it now and you're recollecting, retrospectively? How do you think you did? Did it go well?
I've had the advantage of watching some of the raw footage of us doing comedy, and your jokes really landed. Mine didn't really land. A couple of them did. And honestly, I don't think it was the content. I think it was me not memorizing it and staring at my phone the whole time, being nervous. But I don't know. I listened to it. I actually found what I did pretty funny. It's pretty mean. It's pretty funny. And it came off being supportive of you in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I tried to
did it right.
I did it right, but I think I was so scared and so unprepared that
the audience taps into that energy for sure. What did you think of us, Lucas? Were we dog shit?
No, I was mad at you, Daniel, that you did so well. I mean, that's how you did well, is when a comedian is mad at you. So, yeah, your jokes landed. And I just think the other side came from a place of love.
Yeah.
Came from a place of honesty. I mean, it wasn't like set up punchline, but it was, for a first time, it was good. I've seen a lot worse.
I was preparing for the worst mentally. I was like,
Yeah.
I've never heard of someone doing good their first time doing comedy, so I'm just gonna accept the fact that I'm gonna bomb.
You did great. The audience is really on your side.
And I think what that translated to was like a vague amount of confidence because I was prepared to just bomb fully, and then I did all right, and I was like, okay, I can relax a little bit now.
Now you just have to dedicate the next 10 years of your life to it.
Well,
you'll be good.
And then I'll be passable. It's and shout out to you and Dylan for both helping kind of refine my set that afternoon.
While you guys are doing that, I did Danny's laundry. Yeah,
Dylan's a comedian writer, so comedy writer, right? So that's not his first rodeo.
Not his first rodeo. But narrative work is a little different than raw stand up. But the
fundamentals are the same.
Yeah, we did great.
Set up punchline.
Well, so we got to ask then, Lucas, because we got to see you perform in Chicago, and it was wildly funny. Mm-hmm. How did you get into comedy in the first place? Could you just tell us a little bit about your career?
Yeah, so I started comedy after school. I have a degree in political science, and I couldn't get much work. With my degree, being crippled and a liberal arts degree is like a double whammy.
This is my psychology and research certificate sitting above me, so relatable.
Yeah.
And now I'm a documentarian.
So if I was in sales or something, got my MBA, maybe it would be different. But I love politics. I love theory and stuff, but I love performing. I've been performing all my life. Mm-hmm. I was in a hardcore band. I was in punk bands.
Do you have any footage of that?
Yeah.
You need to send that to us. You really need to send that to us. A Vimeo that we can download directly from?
Yeah.
Where are you going to be using that for?
Yeah, we're downloading that today.
We need links, but
it's embarrassing. But so I love being the center of attention, and I love just having my voice heard. So I couldn't get a job out of college, and I tried open mic, and I fucking fell in love with it, for better or for worse. And that was 10 years ago, 11 years ago. So since then, I've just been at it. And I still love it. And as a comedian, you're never where you want to be, but as long as you still love it and still have a passion for it, you're still happy doing it. You keep doing it. Hey, buddy. Hey, Sarah. Crap. Do you have cats?
I got two.
Being crippled and having cats, they don't listen to you. Get down. I love you. Get down. Okay.
That's fair.
I love telling jokes. I love figuring out jokes. It's just a puzzle piece. It's just figuring out a puzzle And like I love the art of it. I love the performing of it. I mean, the hustle can get kind of
Yeah.
nerve-wracking at times, like making sure your calendar is full
Yeah.
can get kind of nerve-wracking, but besides the business part of it, I love the art part of it.
So I've got a question for you. What have you noticed about your own comedy as it's developed over the course of like 10 years? Are you focusing on different topics? Are you picking up on different things? Are you approaching certain subjects that you maybe wouldn't have tried to tackle?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my earlier stuff were more straight up about my disability and more like me working through. Like my special is like me working through like a lot of disabled like tropes and like prejudice that I see on a daily basis. And I kind of had to get that out of my system. Like I had to like say that shit, and like get it out of the way. And now I can do more daily stuff, more like stuff that revolves around daily life and like maybe wider politics, I still love politics, but wider stuff. And
that's what I found so relatable about a lot of your comedy is, you're joking about, being in an old folks home and like, just like the imminent reality of just kind of being warehoused and like all of these really important, visceral topics, but approaching it in a comedic way that, not only lands for people with disabilities, but also able-bodied audiences who, are having to be confronted with the fact that like that is something society does. They do warehouse people.
Yeah. And making people laugh about it. And like when people like groan and be like, oh, like I'm like, you guys did this shit to me. Like, why are you groaning at me? You should be groaning at yourself, But it's so right now I'm like thinking of my disability more as a character in my life and not like the main focus. Just like I have a new bit about like getting a fight in the bus on the city bus and like it's like partly disabled because it's my life. So like I'm gonna talk about my disability, but it's like based around how people react to it and and I don't know, I just want to grow. I just want to push myself and not be afraid of my disability, not like never be ashamed of it or be like, like I can do other stuff. Like I'm like,
so are you trying to decentralize it a little bit without like, you'll address it when it comes up, but you don't want it to be like the main focus of the work anymore is kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
I
Like,
relate to that, yeah.
Like the setup punches are all about being crippled, and I'm just trying to grow and like everyone else doing this. Like I want my next hour to be different than my first one. So,
Danny and I are often talking about how in television there's a bit of a disability renaissance happening. There's more, documentaries and shows being made where there's actual real representation and it's finding a foothold with audiences. Where are we at in stand-up comedy? Because comedy's often the forefront of pushing these edgy things forward in a sort of palatable way. Like, is stand-up comedy having a renaissance? Are we there? Is it past?
I mean, I think it. I mean, there are tons of crippled comedians, great ones, and shows. It's weird. This is very complicated for me because if I'm going to be honest, like performing with a disability is like you got to be very careful about what the intentions are of the producers and what the intentions are of the show you're on. And like, if you, I mean, I have a lot of friends that got big from, America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
And Kill Tony. And like, and I have no hate for them. Like, if I had the opportunity, I would use it too. But it's a weird thing where it's like, okay, what's the joke though? Like, what are you laughing at? Why are you laughing? Like, who's in control of the narrative?
Yeah.
Like, and like, I think a lot of, I mean, not to get controversial, but like Kill Tony right now, under a lot of fire, like for other things. But I've had an issue with that show, just how they use disability in a way that's kind of like,
reminiscent of like Freak Show, right? Where
a sideshow, like a freak show, like. But that being said, it's like, and I hesitate to say anything because if I had that opportunity, I'm like, they get like $6,000. I'm like, they're touring around the country, so it's like, this is a hustle, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard. Like, it's hard to make a living doing this.
It's hard to. Yeah, it's hard to disparage anyone for getting their bag when they can,
but
or discouraging.
I can relate to what you're saying though, because I've seen some of those clips on like, Facebook or YouTube.
Yeah.
And they leave you vaguely like, that was funny, but I'm left feeling uncomfortable and kind of questionable about this moment.
And that's
it's weird.
And, a lot of that, the format of that particular show where it is meant to be Instagrammable and you can instantly turn it into a reel, right? But like, then you don't have context. And yeah, I've seen it handled, problematically and well. And I feel kind of ambiguous really, but, it's this precarious spot as, disabled creators of like, this is why it's important to have, disabled people behind the camera on our end of things or producing shows, right? So that it's not, it's within the hands of the community to handle the stories responsibly. And, I've even talked to like Aaron Novakowski about online presence and like, you can't control who's, taking these jokes in. So if someone disabled is watching another disabled comedian talk about being disabled, they're getting something out of it completely different than an able-bodied person who's like, haha, this is the cheap laugh, right? And I don't know if there's any particular right answers as to how someone should go about that, but especially in comedy where it is so...
I feel like you just answered it though.
Yeah.
Right. It's like having that representation behind the camera in the producing area. So at least somebody is there saying, hey guys, wait a minute. Like it, I think that's exactly what the answer should be.
Which is also why things like surface level representation doesn't really work, right? Because then, they're using a disabled person to be like, well, we're not ableist, but that person doesn't really have any creative control.
But I feel like this renaissance right now is about getting away from that, and that the previous generation was like the crime scene investigator who's in a wheelchair and his backstory, his sad backstory, and all that. Like we're past that now. Like I feel like we're in a new era.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. I agree with you. I mean, I think TikTok really helps it. Instagram really helps it where you like strip down the producer, like you strip down the gatekeepers and like the big wigs that are like, no, this doesn't work. And you're getting more raw footage of crippled people being like, this sucks about being crippled. Like just because I'm, I love my life doesn't mean this doesn't suck, And like, just example, like, so it's like, And I mean, I try to be conscious of that stereotype and that cliche so I can flip it on the head, flip it on its head, you know? And I think I think it's I've told jokes where I'm like, they laugh, but did they laugh at the way I want them to laugh? Or like, you know, and sometimes I get groans, not laughs, and I'm like, I like that. That one's for me. So, you know, it just, and I don't want to hate on anybody that's getting money, but like, or getting famous, but these productions, I think, need to be aware of how they're doing. And it's like, okay, you want to be, they're like, okay, you want to be on the shows, but you don't like how we present you. Like, which is it? Like, I don't know. It's just like, I don't want to like argue my way out of exposure. Or I'm like, no, it's not the kind of exposure I want. And they're like, okay, we'll move on to somebody else that wants it. I'm like, no, wait.
Well, yeah, and then you get the FOMO, but it's like career FOMO. So you're like actually doing damage when you're turning down opportunities. But, you know, it is, you know, we got to be responsible with who we're working with, right? And you know, the unintended consequences of like finding out someone comes out to say something you don't like, right?
Wait, our conversation started talking about Nico.
Yeah, Nico,
like,
or you know, Hinchcliffe right now, or whatever the case might be, right? But yeah, so like, what are some of the things that you've noticed change in the comedy scene? Like, has it gotten more accessible? Has it gotten less accessible? What are some things that the comedy scene can do to be like more open to disability?
And to put this into reference too, we were like in New York, and that place has the most accessible taxi cabs in the world, but the least accessible buildings.
Yeah.
Like every place had a narrow staircase. So like, and I imagine comedy is pretty known for being in weird little hard to reach places.
Yeah. I mean, I think I said this on when we were filming, like it's like a lot of the more exclusive a venue is, the more like popular it is and the more inaccessible it is. So like you have the Comedy Attic, you have the Comedy Cellar, you have the Comedy Underground, you have the back door and, you know, alleyway, and it's like those are all like cute and fun and like
it's an aesthetic that they're tied to that results in inaccessibility. But
it's like, dude, like I can't get to the back, you know, the underground because there's too many steps to get underground. So it's I like strip malls. Like I like performing at strip malls and colleges because I'm like, okay, those prefab, like those like modern places will be more accessible. Yeah, they're stripped of their cultural significance.
Yeah, I was gonna say the guilt of gentrifying and being like, but it's more accessible though. Cripples hate a heritage building. I cannot.
And it's not just for the artist; it's also you're losing an audience with that as well.
Yeah, you're losing the elderly. You're losing pregnant people. You're losing like all these things that universal design helps everyone. So it's like,
well, and then it's the absurdity that they use the fact that those demographics weren't showing up because it was an inaccessible space as a reason to justify it still being inaccessible. And it's like, well, if you don't build it, they won't come, you know? So like,
it's
kind of
the field of
the cycle.
It's the field of dreams logic, you know? But yeah, I think it's getting better. I just did a great festival in Minneapolis called 10,000 Laughs, and they have a comedy underground, and I can do shows there, but they had other theaters, and they were like, you can't do a show here, but we got you on this show, this show, this show. Like, they made up for it. So it's like in my local club has an upstairs room. My local healing has an upstairs room that I can't get to, but they make sure to put me on more main room shows. And I'm like, hey,
sometimes it works out.
It's like, I can't complain about that. And like, so it's getting more, they're getting more understandable. And I think if you prove you're funny too, which this might be bad, but if you prove you're funny and they know you, they're willing to make a little more adaptations, effort
For sure.
toward, and which is terrible, which
Yeah.
but it's the way it is, I guess. I mean, I think it's the way the way they treated women in the beginning, and black folk in the beginning. Like, it's like they had to prove they were worth their space, which of course they were, but it's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm going down a
Well, no, it's
path,
a thing that, like, a hurdle that every marginalized group has had to face, right? It is like proving something you don't need to prove because it should have just been like innately recognized, this kind of like natural talent. I'm
sorry. And I've made fun of inaccessibility during my set, and that like the club is like, yeah, we are like that. Isn't that crazy? He got us.
You're like, maybe use this as a self-reflecting tool.
Yeah. It's like, he's doing it as it is. Like, okay. But yeah, it's getting better. It's getting better. And I think having shows on TV and having awareness and like just having crippled people in places helps.
Yeah,
Like,
the more visibility we have, the more that we're harder to.
Well, the more we
push to the
the
margin.
more it happens, the better the comedy's gonna be.
Yeah.
And like, I love, like, what I loved about your set, Lucas, was that making me uncomfortable, making me think, but the whole time I'm pissing myself laughing.
Yeah.
So it's like fundamentally entertaining. I love it.
Yeah.
Everybody loves to laugh. Nobody dislikes to laugh, I don't think.
I've had some crowds.
Oh, I've seen some crowds.
I'm like, what? Why are you here?
when you're there just to like sit down and look angry and just be like,
You don't have to be here,
That was the crowd in New York, honestly. One of the roughest crowds I've ever seen because they were all tourists. And we saw a bunch of disabled comedians go up, and the audience was rough.
We were like the only ones audibly laughing, and I'm like, this is hilarious. What's wrong with you people?
Like, who stumbles into a comedy show to just like stonewall every comedian that went up? And there were some like heavy hitters there,
yeah.
like New York locals that like do this every day. And I'm like, man, this crowd is
Unlike the Chicago crowd, which was like amazing.
Dude, that audience was your Drake joke.
That landed.
That was a last minute rewrite too.
Had somebody crying. How was the New York? How was New York?
Well, the comedy, the level of comedy was outstanding.
It was fantastic.
But like I said, the crowds were
was
just
rough.
tourists who weren't from around there. Just, hey, comedy club, will go in. And it was like they didn't react to it. One of the guys had killed somebody in the audience.
Yeah.
And the comedian was like, I'm going to stop talking to the audience right now.
Yeah, when crowd work goes wrong and you're like, oh, I'm learning something that is
It was like a sailor
liability.
killed somebody. No, the comic was like, I'm going to
The minute he's like, I'm a
submarine.
sailor, and then he's asking, what's the craziest thing? And I'm like, don't ask a sailor that ever. Like, what are you doing? Weird, far off ports and whatnot.
That Chicago, that whole place, the 4 theaters in one, that was surreal.
Yeah. I was surprised by the crowd size and intimidated.
I was surprised we were doing an actual stand-up comedy night. I hadn't been anticipating that. That whole thing caught me by surprise.
You orchestrated all of that.
Did you interview I forgot his name.
Steve Way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we met with him and a Puerto Rican director and a group of comedians. There was like 4 or 5.
You said that was like the most power wheelchair users in a room you'd ever seen.
Yeah.
And then like most of them were comedians. It was wild.
Yep.
Cool.
And that's what having 30 million people in a city does, you know, is statistically there are more cripples.
Yeah. I did a spinal injury benefit show, and it was the most crippled people.
Yeah. And that was in New York too, right?
Yeah, that was at Gotham. And that was so fun, dude.
Well, as we're kind of
crippled people have great sense of humor.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a coping mechanism, so it's like some of the funniest people I know are disabled, but
because we're like, this sucks, dude. this is awful, bro. No, okay,
but we're kind of like wrapping up a little bit here, so. What's one massive change you'd like to see in the comedy community to make it more open and accessible to disabled people?
I would like to see clubs being able to put up crippled comedians more, like get them hotels, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this is a national thing where I need like I don't only need a accessible hotel room like my aide does, and that comes out of my pocket.
Yeah.
So I wish there was a way to like subsidize that, or like have take a more risk with me and with handicap performers in general, just to take more risks with us.
Well, yeah, and it's like when you're traveling, all of your travel costs are doubled if you're flying, because now I need to bring a care worker. Now all my hotel costs are doubled.
For anybody watching this podcast and wants to learn about what you're talking about, watch CripTrip, because we will explain.
You will see why it's so expensive.
Travel is hard. The power chair.
24
especially when you're on the L, when you're on the Chicago.
I forgot about
that. That was crazy. But yeah, I think just like take like clubs and bookers taking more of a risk with us, and like or not even a risk. Risk is the wrong word. It's like
investment into, giving them the opportunity. So like in Canada, we have the Disability Screen Office, which is starting to come up with programming that, like, if we want a director on set who has a disability, maybe kicking some money for a stipend for care work, or travel costs, or so like you were saying, subsidizing that somehow.
It's happening. It's just like it's happening right now is the first time it's ever happened. So it's kind of cool.
And we live in Canada, so it's a different kind of market than America, where we have governmental organizations kind of starting to step in and create that equity. But,
and when somebody says government organization in America, they're like, get your hands off my money.
Yeah. And then, it's crazy inflation and all the rest of it.
Oh, that's what you have to do in Canada. If you want to get like a successful comedian with a disability to come to your show, you're going to have to pay this extra money, and the government should help it. Like,
so like we as disabled content creators, we're watching, and we're ponying up for it too, right? So all of that stuff is coming out of our budget, and we're investing specifically in making sure that we have, extreme, severely disabled people who use power wheelchairs and, care work have the opportunity to like come out and hang out with us,
because they're like the most talented people I know. Yeah, are people in power chairs. It's wild.
You think?
It's true. Again,
he's buttering us up.
No, well, it's like Aaron, like Steve's in a world famous TV show. Aaron has 1 billion TikTok followers. Like, I mean, I'm not just saying, they're demonstrably successful at their art. Like, it's cool. And like, it's true. Like, you made me piss myself just a little bit laughing. Like, that's a fact,
Yeah. I think that's a big thing. Be understanding and, have clubs, maybe pony up and be like, okay. And that's hard, but
yeah,
that's what needs to be done.
Hard for any indie art scene, but
On that note, hopefully in the future, one time we could fly to Edmonton. We should do a wheelchair comedy night in Edmonton. But
dude, yeah.
Let's keep the conversation going. Lucas, it was such a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for following up with us.
Absolutely.
So funny.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah. More to come.
Yeah, more to come.
CripTrip season 2, baby.
Watch on AMI-TV or stream for free on AMI+.
TVO, Media Education Group. Catapult Pictures. Looking for more CripTrip? Stream the series now on AMI+.